Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Economic Times Roundtable themed Mastering Transformation, a CEO's Roadmap for Driving Business Agility. This session is powered by Kyndryl. I am Bhumi Shah, welcoming you all to this wonderful session. So, today's roundtable discussion has brought together industry experts who will share their value insights on how today's CEOs are cartographers and forecasters and how they draw up a complex series of decisions and leverage available technology and resources to realize them at just the right time. Agile organizations are more equipped to adapt to uncertain situations and changing market requirements, analyzing and responding to internal and external opportunities and threats, and quickly deliver the products and services of high value and quality. So, to take us through this interesting topic here, I would like to invite our speakers for today. Please help me in welcoming Mr. Vijay Chandok, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, ICICI Securities. Along with him, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ashish Sharma, Managing Director and Head of our internal India Global Technology Center, CNHI. Mr. Akshay Munjal, Founder and CEO of Hero Wired, and Mr. Lingaraju Saukar, President, Kyndryl India. This wonderful session will be moderated by Mr. Ashwini Mishra, Tech Editor, ETH Insights. With this, I would now like to hand it over to Mr. Mishra. Ashwini, over to you.
Thank you, Bhumi, for setting the context. And once again, good evening and welcome to all our esteemed speakers, Mr. Munjal, Lingu, good to see you, Mr. Chandok, Mr. Sharma. So I believe Bhumi did set the context of this discussion. And yes, we are living through extraordinary times, if I may say so. There is a confluence of crisis and disruptions surrounding the world. I don't want to be a pessimist at all, but yes, that's the scenario across. So powerful disruptions are arriving just about every day. Europe is gripping with an energy crisis. There is the war in Ukraine still continues. The cost of essentials, life's essentials, have hit the roof in all forms. And when prices in some countries, I was reading through some articles, have increased eightfold. And then we have the technological disruption and regional demographic changes, all of these reshaping the business environments that we live in. Especially over the last 3 years, we have seen many rules being rewritten. While none of these forces are new, and I'm sure you would have experienced these challenges previously as well. But how can CEOs master this art of transformation is what we are trying to look at. I'm sure you can't master it in a day, in a year, but it's a continuous process. So let's hear from you initially, from all of you, and then we could have some specific questions in terms of what is the toughest task for CEOs in today's times. What needs to be done now and what can wait. Mr. Munjal, let's start with you, and let's keep it free flowing rather than me picking out anyone.
Sure. Thank you, Ashwini. Thank you for having me as a part of the panel. I think it's a great question. Somebody had once said that earlier one could look at a black swan event happening once in a decade. Now that seems to have come down once every 5 years. Now going forward, we don't know whether that'll become sort of an annual or a biannual feature. I think as CEOs, the only thing I tell myself is our role is to deal with uncertainty. For everything else, there should be a system and process. And there is so much uncertainty, if you look at COVID, caught the whole world off guard.
Right.
You mentioned the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Again, very unexpected on multiple fronts.
True. Yes.
And in the middle of all of this, like you mentioned, technology is rapidly evolving. We had ChatGPT over the last few weeks talking about.
And we have the Bard AI from Google rolling out.
Correct. Now you have the Bard.ai from Google as well. So I think the only thing certain is that the pace of change is increasing rapidly. And just to give you some sense, earlier in manufacturing, when we had drawn out plans for how long would EVs come in, about a decade ago, they had predicted that the tipping point would be 2040, 45. 5 years ago, the tipping point was 2030.
Right.
Today, they're talking about the tipping point is 2025. So that's how rapid the change is becoming.
Absolutely.
And as CEO, the only thing one can do is just say, okay, what here are my known knowns and here are my unknown unknowns. While I can cater for all the knowns, for unknowns, how quickly can I react?
Right.
How quickly can I decide? Because if I just take the example of COVID also, it took quite some time for everybody to adjust. The smarter, better companies, more agile companies quickly shifted from work from home, work from anywhere, everything virtual. The more traditional companies really struggled for it.
Right.
The more prepared CEOs were to say, you know what, COVID is coming. Yeah, we can't, things are not back to normal as always. So how quickly can I change?
Absolutely. Yes, very well put, Mr. Munjal. Yes, so the pace of change has been really rapid, and disruptions have been occurring at a faster pace than expected. Mr. Chandok, what are the key themes or key areas that you would be focusing on with the challenges that Mr. Munjal did mention upon? Anything that you would want to share on that front as well?
I think thanks, Ashwini, for having me on this event today, and very good afternoon to all the viewers. You started off by asking from the priorities, what are the priorities as a CEO, and probably I'll just spend a minute or so talking about it, and then talking about specifically what's the focus just now. I would say that one of the realities of the role that I and all my colleagues on the panel are running is dealing with ambiguity. There is no structure to your life. It is what you paint of it. And that is not necessarily a very great, kind of a situation for everyone to deal with.
True.
The reality is that there is ambiguity, and then you have to deal with multiplicity of stakeholders, and these stakeholders are pulling you in different directions. You have to literally juggle simultaneously with 5 or 6 balls at the same time, and ensure that when you have the right balls in the air when you have to when things are moving in that particular certain way. So agility becomes very important, that you toss the right ball in the air at the right time. Even if you're not fully prepared for it, you have to develop the ability to respond in the fastest possible time. And some of these stakeholders that you need to deal with, I would say, is the, depending on the industry, you have competition, which is ever evolving, ever disrupting. You have regulations, which are, again, particularly in a industry like ours, which are a massive thing to deal with.
Right.
Then you have stakeholders in form of shareholders, investors, who have a certain set of expectations. You have your own employees, which an important stakeholder in your scheme of things. And each of these pull you in different directions. It's important to deal with all of them. So currently, as you were asking as to what is it that is your priority, I think in the last few years, specifically, our industry has faced massive disruption. And this disruption has been coming from non-traditional players. Our industry, finance industry, we are in the, if I can say, the financial e-broking kind of an industry. And at that point in time, it is not just all the stuff that I said, but there is an added dimension that the face of our competition itself was changing. It is no longer about competing with the traditional set of competition, but an emerging set and breed of competition which never existed before.
Right.
So you have to first deal with the internal skepticism that is it indeed a competition at all? Is there first of all acceptance that there is a new breed of competition, and then creating a strategy to deal and deal with that. So again, that is like putting 2-3 balls at the same time that you need to juggle. So really, we've been pivoting to transform ourselves from our traditional position as a company, as an e-broker, to become more and more like a wealth tech platform, which is a lot more broad-based. So we've been massively, and our industry is extremely digital, perhaps much more digital than a typical manufacturing industry. So in a way, digital has been an important linchpin for the transformation, driving the transformation agenda for us. And we have very actively, consciously, and vigorously pursued transformation. And for us, it was transformation to survive. So
Right.
our priorities right now was pivoting to deal with an emerging competition, which probably never existed in the past. So you're dealing with an entity and a form and shape, form factor, which you don't even have a history to understand that form factor. So that adds to the challenge. And it's therefore agility and the ability to respond and sometimes anticipate, not just respond, but anticipate becomes important. And I just want to say that you have to then create a culture within the system that thinks like that, because you cannot think all the time for what's happening on the ground. There is no time for one person to think. The system has to think and,
Right.
and create a sort of a response. So it's very important then to create a culture, a system which is capable of thinking agile, empowered to take a decision, and skilled to sort of understand the new realities. So, and I think that's the role that a CEO would have to play, and that's what I've been trying to do, to create a system which is a lot more agile to deal with changes and actually try and anticipate changes and not just try and respond to changes, so that you are actually you have become the driver of disruption.
Right. Very well put, Mr. Chandok. So you touched upon dealing with ambiguity, dealing with multiple stakeholders, and also looking at competition and being agile, and the digital piece. We'll come to the digital piece in a while once we have this first round of inputs from all of you. Mr. Sharma, what according to you would be some of the key themes or key areas that you would be focusing on?
Sure. First of all, thank you again, Ashwini, for having me here. I couldn't agree more with Vijay when he's talking about agility and resilience. That is something which is absolutely must in today's environment, because we have to build really a more agile and resilient organization which can quickly adapt to the changes which are happening in the business environment. Now, the business I'm coming from, a lot more iron, a lot more brick and mortar. See, we are in the business of making products which help address two of the important needs of the world. One is to feed the ever-growing population of the world,
Right.
and second is to help build the world for various construction activities. So now, looking at the needs of the organization I'm part of, and in the role I'm playing, I believe for CEOs in this kind of a setup, to me, two things which are kind of interrelated and probably also alluding to what you just mentioned, might be covering in more detail in the next. First is the digital transformation. It is something which is extremely crucial, because even going by going by hearing what Akshay talked about on all the challenges happening, or all the changes happening. What's not changing is the expectations of our customers. In fact, they're ever growing.
Right.
And operating within that environment where you have these uncertainties, challenges, controllables, non-controllables, a lot of non-controllables. What besides being agile and resilient, we as CEOs need to make sure that we are always on a constant journey of digital transformation into our organizations, so that we can fulfill the needs of our customers more and more effectively. We can help them get more produce out of the products they deploy from us, again speaking for the businesses I'm part of. And I think second thing which I feel is important in today's world, was always important, but it's becoming more and more, is data-driven decision making, where the leveraging the data and analytics for informed decision making is becoming crucial. And it has both the sides. There's so much of data becoming available to us. The challenge is to make sure we are able to identify the right one, and we have the right ways, means, process, and systems, and obviously the skills to deploy the outcomes of that again to serve the needs of our customers. So those two, in addition to agility and resilience.
Right, very well, said, Mr. Sharma. Yes, so we will speak about the data-driven decisions and how important it is in today's times and the digital transformation as a whole. Let me draw Lingu to this conversation. Lingu, good that you've heard. So the key themes are very well there. So they haven't changed. But yes, the time of uncertainty that's there, as Mr. Munjal did mention, has come down. So every other day is a new challenge in some form. Now the challenge again presented by this disruption is kind of paradox as well. And while one has to mitigate the effects of disruption, they also need to take advantage of the opportunities that come along with it. So that's how the organizations are moving forward, and they have been doing good in that form. How are you helping organizations, Lingu, in terms of staying resilient and bouncing back? So we'll keep the digital piece for the next round of conversation. An overview from you, and then we could move on.
I think, Ashwini, first of all, thank you for having me in with this esteemed panel. The theme of resiliency and agility sort of resonates across in various sectors, whichever you look at it. It's just that what happened in the 2-3 events that went by, whether it is, as Akshay points out, as a black swan event, whether it was the COVID event or whether the geopolitical situation and so on, it has set up a new set of baselines for what resiliency is and what agility is. Organizations which in the industry that we came in from, the IT tech service industry, things got completely reset as resiliency. Work from home, work from anywhere. So work can be delivered anywhere without disruption was a new frame. So that obviously set expectations to a different level, set competitiveness to a different level, and hence the resiliency factor came up different level. The second element of it is clearly, as you pointed out rightly, we are in a paradox. But the paradox is, and the industry that we are all in right now, when you look at it externally from outside the country, you hear about inflation, you hear about economic pressures, you hear about geopolitical impacts and so on. But when you look at within the country, the very strong buoyant mood on a strong economy, a strong budget, a strong growth indicators, a strong infrastructure spend.
Right.
It's a paradox, right? How do you deal with it? And given what you have on the table right now, I think is to, and we can't be too long planning for too long ahead. Look at what's there right now. Be agile enough to be flexible to grab what is there right now, while keeping an eye out. I mean, we saw that during COVID, right? I mean, automotive parts companies started manufacturing ventilators, textile companies started manufacturing PPE kits, and so the agility and speed of India, what truly is, came into bear. And as we go further ahead, this paradox will continue, and we are right now sitting in one within India and outside India to India. So my view is that agility is at the core, but at the same time, grab the opportunity that's there right now, deliver to it, while having a set of people look at immediately beyond the current future and plan for it as well. So ambidextrity is what I would say is going to keep us going.
Absolutely. Yes, very well said, Lingu. Yes. Right. So I guess we've touched upon the point of digital transformation, and the phrase has been part of the business lexicon for many years now. And I'm sure most of the companies have invested a substantial volume of resources in digital and technology areas. Now, I would if our speakers could just share their views in terms of how are you thinking about the technology and digital agenda, and many of the CEOs are leading this agenda for now, and I have been interacting with quite a few like yourselves. What are the areas, or what kind of expectations do you have from the digital and technology solutions, and what kind of transformations are you looking as you move ahead to be agile, to be resilient?
So Shuni, let me go
Sure.
on this. I think one of the way in which I articulate our company's we are a technology company in finance. We are not a finance company. And the reason why I say that is because unlike a typical finance company, there is where you typically have an outlet, which is you put up the shutter and you have something to offer on the other side of the shutter. Our shutter is inside the phone. We access our customers through phone, and if you are probably slightly more old-fashioned, you'll probably go to the internet and do it stuff on the iPad. But most people actually access us through telephone. So digital is our lifeblood. Technology is our lifeblood. We at ICICI have always invested ahead of time in technology, and I think we have in the finance world at least I would say been high investors and ahead of time thinkers as far as tech is concerned. But the kind of changes and disruptions that have taken place so much in the recent past makes me think that probably we may be strong in tech, but there is a way to go before we become modern digital. And there's a difference between a strong tech and a modern digital company. And therefore I started thinking of technology in layers rather than as an ad hoc block. So let me elaborate. People say that something is a very good technology company by looking at the skin.
Right.
They find the skin very good. They think it's the best company in terms of technology. But that things cannot be farther from the truth with this kind of a naive belief. But that's the reality. Particularly in a B2C world, skin is what determines the extent of technology savviness in the minds of most people. And therefore, I realized that you could have a very strong core, but if you don't have a good skin which touches the customer, your core has very little meaning in the context of.
And the customers don't care what kind of technology you use. They want that experience to matter.
So I think when we started thinking about digitization and how did we think about it, we started thinking about it in layers, and we started articulating internally that from a strong tech morph to a modern digital, and modern digital has got a great skin, a great experience layer, and as traditional players in the industry, we never felt it was so important to have a great skin. It was important to have a great core, but I think life and times have changed. And that is where we started investing a lot in every layer of technology. It required pivoting our mindset. We have historically in our business always been a make only kind of a mindset. We pivoted to a make, partner, buy mindset because we said we don't have time. Stuff that we need to make stuff that we thought we should make, and we don't necessarily need to make if we can outsource it. And sometimes it is buy, sometimes it is partner. It depends on the scene and the situation. But important thing was to pivot that mindset to a make, partner, buy. We then started thinking in terms of how we can therefore tear our company to have a strong core, talk to the external layer, or I would say the client-facing layer, and talk to the internal layer, or the layer which feeds into management information systems, regulatory reporting, and stuff like that. So we thought of the whole thing as the brain in the middle, which is very, very strong, which processes everything, which manages the risk. The layer in the front end, which is the customer-facing layer, and the layer at the back end, which is which gives you the temperature of your company in many ways, how well you are performing and how well you are not performing, and what has happened in the company. It gives you the entire temperature of different parts of the company, including feeds to the regulatory filing and reportings. And therefore, the moment we started thinking about it, it became a lot more easier. And we realized that we have to create what one calls an API framework with which you can bring about agility in technology, modernization in technology, because we realize that the skin is ever changing. You cannot have an architecture which is just constraining you. You need to have an architecture that is making you agile. And
what it's evolving at.
Exactly. So the moment we started thinking in terms of layers and we started thinking in terms of APIs, it suddenly gave a big sort of a way of, literally think of it like a Velcro which sticks on top of it. You like the Velcro which is facing you today, continue with it. When you realize that the Velcro, the stuff on the top is not looking good, you tear it out and put the new stuff, which can be done quite rapidly. So that kind of capability, that kind of agility we thought was required in our kind of business. So we started really thinking of first of ourselves as a technology company. We did believe that we are a strong tech company. We believe we are a strong tech company, but modern digital company is different from a strong tech company. Morph into a modern digital company. Think of our technology in layers, open architecturize our thinking, make partner buy mindset. So I think these are some of the components that we did and we continue to do to drive more digitization. The concept that I've been talking to my team is that anything that is digitizable, digitize it. Don't worry so much about the cost, because the benefits of digitization are going to be unprecedented, massive, and long duration. It's not like you digitize and you have only 1 year to extract the value out of it. It's going to be ongoing, and it is only accretive. Particularly in a situation where India as an economy is positioned, given the fact that per capita, GDP, etc., is all slated to improve, and that directly feeds our industry. So anything that is digitizable, digitize it. Don't worry so much about the costs. Think of it in layers. Don't think that you're going to create a Taj Mahal in terms of experience. It's okay. One of the examples I keep giving to my team is WhatsApp. I thought it's one of the most easy UI UX and simple UI UX to use. I'm sure all of us use, but every few weeks or nowadays lesser than it's become less frequent. At least in the past, every few weeks. Nowadays, probably a few months, you will get a new version of a WhatsApp. So there's obviously found that something that they are offering, which is already so good, is not good enough, and they add one more sort of a version of it. So the Taj Mahal is never complete. Don't aim for the Taj Mahal. Keep, come out with a good version and then keep improving. Think of a new product every 30, 40, 50 days. It's okay. So I think agility in thinking, and then capability. You will need to have the tech capability to also be able to do that. So create the core hard, create it in layers, and bring that mindset. And that's how we are thinking about in our world.
Right, Mr. Chandok. I think that was quite extensive, but beautifully explained. Yes, so just covering the 3 points that I thought were important was moving from a strong tech to a modern digital platform, and make partner buy, use APIs, use open architecture, and keeping the customer focused across. So whether it is the experience or evolving them with new features over time. So that's the strategy that you have taken. Yes. So, Mr. Sharma, Mr. Munjal, any points from you?
Yeah. So I just want to build on that. See, to me, when we say technology is the business, having spent over 3 decades in technology space, I personally feel yes, it is really true. If I just go back, into the history and my journey, in my career, see, though I'm heading an organization, but from inside, always an engineer and technologist. Over the last few years, honestly, that has really become true. And I can speak of that even for the organization I'm part of, where technology is the core component of the strategy. There are 2 aspects of that. One is very internal, where you try and improve the internal efficiencies. You automate things. You want to get things done faster. You at times use technology to also address some of your internal bureaucracy, where you create your systems and automate in a way that things start to move smoothly. So that's one aspect. Second, which is external from the perspective of the stakeholders, that could be your end customers or the dealers in our case. And at times, even the unsaid customers, and I'll speak a little bit on that as well. But from the key customers' perspective, it is always about how we constantly keep increasing the value by understanding where the problems are. Now, for example, In agriculture domain, the products we make are the likes of tractors, harvesters, balers, different products.
Right.
The technologies we sell in the Western world are different from what we have in India. And the needs of the markets are different, needs of the customers are different. One of the challenge, what we are experiencing, our customers, that is farmers are experiencing today in India, is the shortage of manpower. So mechanization is there. We know there is urbanization happening, less and less manpower available. Also, agriculture is really a time-bound industry where if you don't sow or if you don't harvest the right time, you're not going to have the right yields. You need to manage the weather patterns. So what we are trying to do is, see, over the last 180 years of history, we are very good in making great iron. Now we are marrying that great iron with great technology to bring out the right outcomes for our customers. So a simple example is how we can bring some kind of limited autonomy in the way the tractors operate out in the field, which gives more room to the farmer to perform other activities. We are embedding different level of sensors in some of the construction equipments we sell in construction space, like some of our excavators and TLBs, where the overall operation of the excavators improves and the yield improves for the customers. And in turn, the third outcome, which I talked about, probably the unset expectations are more in terms of responsibility of the organization for the larger environment and the sustainability piece.
Absolutely.
So how our products consume less fuel, how we look at alternate fuels. So that's the other space of technology, not just the digital part. How we are investing into electrification, but to me, electrification is only one way of looking at alternate fuels. Investing into developing methane-based tractors, kind of circular economy. We know the amount of waste, agriculture waste, which gets generated is also a source of fuel through the biogas. And if you use that to run the tractor on the field itself, you're kind of into the circular economy, and the byproduct of that biogas is again something which you can use as manure. So the technology interventions are happening in each of these areas, and to me, that's really an evolving field. I can keep going on and on and on in this space, because then you have the drones coming in, you have the robots coming in, the camera visions coming in as technologies to look at how you can harvest products better. India is the largest producer of cotton in the world today. Cotton is mostly plucked by hands. In today's world, that's probably not the best way of harvesting the cotton. So there are thoughts, developments in terms of looking at how some of these technologies can help bring out solutions to not just improve the yield, but also improve the standard of living, the way of living of the communities around us.
Absolutely. Right. Yes. No. And you touched upon the sustainability piece, Mr. Sharma. Definitely, that is one of the that has emerged as one of the key areas of focus for many of the organizations. Mr. Munjal.
I was just hearing the fellow panelists talk about. I'm reminded about something with Sir Jamie Dimon said about JP Morgan. He said, we are not a bank, we're a technology company. And he's made this comment quite a few times that banking is something we do. While that was his comment, I have a very different take on it. To me, I look at technology as an enabler. It is not a silver bullet or cure for all ills mankind faces. And in our business, I came from a traditional education, from a higher education university to EdTech.
Right.
And the way I look at it is, you have to have a confluence of technology and humans. And I am very clear, we are not a technology company. We are a learning company. We use technology wherever it can make learning more effective. So in my view, it's a bit of a oxymoron, even though it's called EdTech. While the tech part is...
I was about to ask you that. Sorry.
True. True. To me, it's an enabler. A lot of times now, if I talk about different edtech companies, have tried to substitute teaching with, self-paced content, having a AI-based engine teach you. That doesn't just doesn't work. You've got to find the optimum use cases where it will be effective. And in education, in the teaching learning process, there's nothing more motivating than a human.
Absolutely.
Imagine if a machine tells you, Ashwini, you've done 50% of the work. Now please do 10% more or 20% more. Versus a live faculty telling you, Ashwini, you've done great so far, but here are the things which you need to work on, and maybe you want to put in a little extra effort.
Right.
So in my limited view, I think going forward, we just have to look at the confluence of technology and humans. We can't go the other extreme of saying everything is tech and, this world where Elon Musk plans to say humans will become redundant and we don't need humans anymore. I think that's a bit of a fallacy. And there was a very interesting book I read, which was called Jobs of the Future, where this gentleman had written about that technology will take certain category of jobs. And those category of jobs are more middle management, which are more repetitive, system driven, where you can train a system. Your jobs really at the high end management or really at the low end, like a cook, janitor, barber. Do you want to really go to a robotic barber to get your haircut? Maybe, maybe not.
Right.
So he talks about how repetitive jobs will get replaced. So I fully agree that wherever you can use technology to make system easier, to make life better, to make processes smoother, to cut through bureaucracy, to make it more efficient. Yes, technology has a huge role to play and will continue evolving there. At the same time, there's always a balance. There is certain areas where you need to use technology as an enabler. Like I started with saying, where Jamie Dimon says that JP Morgan is not a bank, it's a tech company. To me, it is still a bank. As a customer, I don't go to them for the technology. I go to them as a bank, and if they use technology to make it more efficient, great. But in my view, it's still a bank.
Yes.
And I hope it remains a bank.
So point well taken, Mr. Munjal. So you're right in some form, yes. But the tech has seeped so much deep into companies that they want to project that that we are ready. I guess that's what they want to say, but the core business will not change. So I was interacting with a CTO of a private bank.
Ashwini,
Yes, Mr. Chandok. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point that Mr. Munjal has made, and I think he's absolutely right. You can't let go the domain of your core, but it's probably a figure of speech which you need to impress upon a team, because the team has to understand.
On the team and also with the big tech companies, that we are at par with them. So don't take it lightly.
But I would say that, slowly this thing is seeping into replace some of the things that were happening. So let me just elaborate through one or two simple examples. Earlier, if somebody wanted a capital gain statement, he had to go to a branch. He will tell, "Arey, mere ko capital gain statement do, download karo."
Right.
Today, click, download kar leta hai. एक आदमी मेरे को ब्रांच का ही जरूरत नहीं है अभी. I don't need a branch. It has eliminated the need. Earlier he would come and place order, physically through a slip. Now he does it himself. It has eliminated the need for physical presence. Questions: how do I do this? How do I do that? Now we have created bots. They answer questions. It has reduced my capacity. Now, if we don't think technology, these wouldn't have been possible. Yeah, but it's because we have the core domain. I think he's very right in saying what he said. You can't say that you're a technology company and give up your core domain. Core domain is thing, and I think he's more accurately put than many of us, which is it's an enabler. Certainly, it's an enabler. The figure of speech is technology is an enabler, but the figure of speech is to impress on the point that you don't focus only on your core and not bring technology into the way of thinking. Your delivery systems, enablement has to be tech-led, and you need to have right skills. So the kind of number of people that you have in tech today in a finance company is far higher than what we had a few years back.
Absolutely. Ringu, I've kept you waiting for long. Sorry. You're on mute.
Sorry, not at all. Very interesting conversation, and definitely when you look at from a service provider or a technology company from our point of view, and here these are very true. I think at one point in time when anything with a .com had a different valuation attraction, so companies did go to one extreme kind of a thing. Now the next level is that, hey, to become an engineering tech services company or engineering tech company, right? So while they all do that, but at the core of it is one should not forget that the core business, you use technology to enable and drive your core business. Now, having said that, Ashwini, I think very rightfully the last 2 years of what COVID did and what everything else did definitely did accelerate adoption of digital into a very significant manner. Having said that, I think there's also a time which is soon going to come in when everybody said we'll go to the cloud, everybody said we'll do these things, and lots of digital permission happened. It's also going to be time for us just step back and say, how do we integrate and connect all of these within an organization? Every department has launched an app, every function has launched a work motion, but how do you integrate all of that? Just to give an example, right? We are doing some work with one of the state governments. Now they've got about almost 45 different departments. Each department has launched a citizen service center, the digital platform based, app based, and all that. But when you step back and look at it, right now the challenge for them is a citizen has to go to 24 different departments for thing, and there's no horizontal integration between those departments, database from land records to vehicles to sales tax and everything else, right? So integration of that under one frame, saying how much can I leverage what is already there. So there's a significant amount of leverage potential that is there by integrating what's the various islands of digital into one comprehensive frame of digital. So that's one space. The second piece that I really look at as we head forward into digital is the fact that the with digital and tech also comes in the impact on society. And I'm taking a slightly broader view. I mean, one can talk about ChatGPT replacing work and all that stuff, but when you take this India government itself, right, with so much of focus being driven through DBT, direct benefit transfer, to the bottom of the pyramid, money transfers happening across. What one needs to also look at is the amount of vulnerability that has created at the bottom as well. I'm aware, and we all read about it. With all the benefits directly getting transferred to accounts at a single unit level, and within the villages, within rural communities, the phishing attacks that have started increasing out there, which means that how people are actually losing money out there. Just a harmless link saying that, hey, is button ko daba do, tumko 100 rupees milega, and people press that and suddenly their entire money is gone off, whatever earnings they get across. So those kind of things are the ones that we also need to focus upon as responsible citizens. And one of the things that we're doing is a program called Cyber Rakshak, targeted at 100,000 women, focused on cyber education and making sure that it just protects what they've earned by not being vulnerable to various technology challenges that start coming their way. So in summary, my view is integration of digital, lots of islands of digital, integrate them and make that as a very big impact. The second is very clearly the societal impact also has to be seen parallelly to make sure that the vulnerabilities that have come in along with tech has to be managed and protected as well. And definitely at the core of it, technology will continue to keep redefining the way work is being done, and there are new ways of working, like what Vijay pointed out. Or saying the new ways of working will always be changing, but at the core of it is what do we stand for? An organization will remain the same. So that's a view of how I see the world, Ashwini.
Absolutely, very well put, and thanks for sharing those examples, Ringu. We have time, I guess, 5-6 minutes is what we can speak more on. Just out of curiosity, and since we were talking about digital and the importance that it has within the organizations, I just wanted to know, do you also try to assess where transformative value emerges in terms of the digital deployments that you do within your companies? Is there an assessment that happens while the implementation is there, while the desire is there to have digital? do you also try to assess and find the value?
Let me take one shot at this in another thing where, because we see the cross spectrum of customers and clients from what we do. I think the focus on two areas. One is on customer experience, and the other is employee experience, right?
Right.
So how do you redefine customer experience? And hence there's a focus on that, which obviously has an impact to how you perceive and how you deliver goods and services to your constituents. And the second is the employee experience, or how you can simplify work for people, how you can elevate the level of work that's being done, and how you can actually bring in more value to tasks that are otherwise can be mundane and repetitive. So we see a lot of focus being put primarily into customer experience or customer thing, and enabling employees. I think these are two areas that will take the primary spend on digital.
So let me give it a shot. How we assess is fundamentally, I think, in 3 or 4 ways. One is how investments in tech and digital has helped increasing our acquisition run rates, new client acquisition run rates. That's one clear sort of a measurable. Number 2, in terms of customer experience. So we do measure net promoter scores, and we see the impact of simplification and de-frictionalization and what impact that has got in terms of NPS.
Right.
The third, we believe that if we have a happier customer and a more content customer, we should over time be able to improve products per customer. We call it PPC. Or cross-sell ratios or whatever. So we do look at products per customer and how that is moving over time. And finally, the fourth element that we really think about as to what digital should give us is the ability to demonstrate operating leverage, which means that at a firm level, you should be able to eventually, be able to show a reducing cost and an increasing revenue, not just margin improvement, but reducing cost and improving revenue. I think these are 4 measures. We have to constantly try monitoring. It is not as if, you will achieve all of these, but at least, we put forward these 4 sort of frameworks to keep measuring. Sometimes you meet them and sometimes you realize that you're not meeting. So that helps you calibrate what you need to change.
Absolutely.
I think this is one question which we always get confronted with in our roles, right? When we interact with the functions responsible for technology investments or the investments into digital. So there are certain aspects where you don't have a choice because you are in the game. There's competition doing it. For you to sustain yourself to be in the game, you have to make certain investments. So there you may not go for direct measurements. But then, as Vijay also said, certain cost reductions, yes, we do measure as well. At times, looking at pull-through of the sales of your existing products because of technology interventions. I know, some of the organizations, there is a vertical or creation of a separate vertical which is in the works, where you start to look at capturing the outcome in terms of revenues through expected outcomes. See, we are a product company, right? And traditionally, a product company looks at its revenue stream coming by selling its products. But then, over the last few years, companies like ours are getting transformed into solution providers rather than just product sellers, and that's where you start to capture separately how the revenue is getting generated through these outcomes. And that's so again, what I'm talking about is some of it is in works and some of it is future planning, because those outcomes you also need to look at over the life cycle of the entire products. I just wanted to add on top of what is already covered.
Absolutely, yes.
Sure. When we look at technology spends, we always look at it, just a couple of yardsticks which you look at. Does it make the process more efficient? What is my ROI, and how often would I have to upgrade or what will it cost to maintain?
Right.
Because there are lots of, whether you look at a ERP or a LMS or CRM, today without any of these tools, it's not possible to achieve scale. For us, a CRM or a LMS, which is a learning management software or a customer relation management. So these are really fundamental. Now, these are par for the course if you want to achieve certain scale. But after that, what are we doing? What are we spending? How is it making? Is it adding direct value to my customer's experience? And that's really, if I answer it in a very briefly, that's the yardstick we use.
Right.
Does it add to the wow factor for the customer, or is it hygiene?
Absolutely. Right. Ningu, any comments that you have here, or you've spoken before?
No, I think well covered by everyone. I think nothing much to add, Ashwini. Thank you.
Right. So any questions that you have to ask Lingu, or within yourselves, just a couple of minutes, if you could just have a free flowing conversation. I am through with the questions, so I don't have any. But any thoughts, anything that you would want to know, please, we can utilize this couple of minutes here.
I think the thing that as I was talking to Akshay a little before we started, in another discussion, he did make a very provocative point about EdTech, Akshay, and from EdTech being the darling pre-COVID to how the media has painted EdTech to a different level. That's a very provocative one. Maybe Akshay, you want to talk about it to the others, your point of view on that?
Sure. So the comment I was making earlier was, EdTech has really gone from this savior during COVID days to a failure post-COVID. And if I look at fundamentally, nothing has changed about EdTech. And I was on a different panel last week where the moderator kept saying, but EdTech has failed to deliver, EdTech had overpromised, EdTech has not delivered. And the only comment I was making was, I come from a traditional higher education background. There are 1,000 plus universities in India. There are 90,000 plus approved colleges in India. And they've been there since 1950s onward. IIT Kharagpur came in 50s, the first one. And then the rest started.
Right.
Even today, we talk about that 75% of engineers in India are unemployable. Where is the thought of, why do we, after having 70 years, and we say, why are 75% engineers still unemployable? And EdTech as an industry is very nascent. And to expect something which higher education has not done, that, I didn't study for 3 years, I didn't study for 4 years, and here EdTech will come in. And maybe, some EdTech companies did promise that it's like a magic wand. You come in within 3 months or 6 months, I'll convert you from knowing nothing in engineering to becoming this red hot full stack developer. Unlikely. But overall, when I look at education, I'm very optimistic. I think the merger of EdTech and education will happen. At some point, what's going to happen is the role of higher education will become, they'll be creating knowledge universities, and EdTech will be disseminating knowledge. Right. And whoever is the most efficient platform to disseminate will disseminate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. I guess, and we are moving in that direction to some form, Mr. Munjal.
I just want to add an experience. I'm not knowledgeable on EdTech as an industry. During COVID, we all know how, within our organization, the learning and development for employees shifted entirely online.
Right.
And how we had to make people see. What we did was the traditional ways of training we brought into digital and online way. So if somebody was attending 2 days of workshop in a classroom, we converted them to online. And we know today that it's practically impossible for someone to sit continuously and learn through the day. So the point I'm trying to bring in is we need to evolve and innovate and look at the best of both. Again, from internal learning perspective within our organizations, even some of the leadership programs are being redesigned where you have a couple of hours of interventions which are online. and then you also plan few offline connects. So a combination of the two. The point I'm making is maybe we declared success too early, looking at the fact that, okay, this is how the future of education will be. And now when things have started to come back to some extent to the way they were, it's time for us to rethink. And is that the best way for us to operate industry like EdTech or something else?
And it also has to do with the promises that have been made by the few, so the entire sector is taking a fall for that.
That's right.
Yes, Mr. Chandok, anything that you would want to say here?
So I would just add, I think this, the point of classifying something as failed or not succeeded is the lens. It depends on the lens that you use. Perhaps the wider lens that is getting used is the darling of what markets think, which is market cap, their ability to raise money at humongous valuations.
Right.
So I think that is something which is making people brand and sector or a nature of a company into successful or not successful. Perhaps that lens is dominating. I think the recent developments saw exuberant valuations being given to such tech-led plays. We saw some of them getting listed, and there has been a very disappointing after-listing experience. And I think the private capital, which has been chasing these humongous valuations, has suddenly realized that the public markets are very different, and they are not giving the same kind of valuations that they thought they deserved. And therefore, they themselves are pivoting their lens. And suddenly the valuations are coming down and questions are getting asked about path to profitability and so on and so forth. So probably that's, and in the absence of a here and now answer for that, your valuations are going down, and therefore this comment is coming. I think in terms of utility, it's still, I agree, it's in the early stage. There is lots of value that can come. The lens, if it is coverage, I think very successful. If lens is profits and contribution to the bottom line, I think still models have got to be proven. Yeah. So I think it depends on the lens that you apply.
Absolutely. Very interesting. So, the last few minutes we spoke about EdTech, Mr. Munjal. Right. Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation, and it was enlightening, and I stand inspired here. Before we wind up, Bhumi, would you? I'll wind up this conversation again. Ringu, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Munjal, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chandok, really love this conversation having with you all, and hope to see you all in person soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashwini, for having me.
Bye. Thank you.
Good day to everyone. Bye.
Okay,
Likewise.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, everyone, for taking us through such an enlightening session. It was an absolute pleasure to listen and to witness this such a fantastic discussion. We now look forward to seeing you all for our sessions in the future. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time out and helping us and sharing the insights that will definitely help. Thank you.